But then it's just like the clothes weren't fitting me very well. Like, and like I noticed right off the bat. Like I said, it was a smaller designer, so he only had one of each thing, and it was only one size, and it wasn't like adjustable at all. Like just like right off the bat, I was like, I'm a little worried. You know, my thing is, I didn't go to a casting or a fitting for it, so I had no idea what to expect. But like you could just like tell like throughout the shoot, he was just like more and more like frustrated.
Question, when they showed up late and when like you started noticing these things, did you talk to your agent about it? Did you message them saying, hey, just want to let you know the photographer's late, the designer's late? Like, did you mention that to them?
No, I didn't, and that is my fault. I should have. I just like wasn't really thinking about it at the time. The next day I was like talking to my mom about it, and I was like, I think I should email the agency, and I just never did.
Yeah, a lot of models when they're starting out, they forget that your agent, as part of their job, is to advocate for you on set to ensure that you're being protected and that everything is going according to what the agreement is. And yeah, it's a good reminder to models that are out there, like, hey, if you notice something, like even if the photographer is late or whatever, email your agent and tell them like, hey, just letting you guys know I showed up, the photographer's a little bit late, I just want to notate that so that there's documentation. This is where you want to text your agent. You want to be on a texting basis because you want to be like, hey, like I'm here at the shoot and I don't fit any of these clothes, what do I do? And that way they're figuring out on their end what they got to be doing.
Right.
So the clothes weren't fitting, the designer was frustrated with you. How was it making you feel? Like just uncomfortable?
I mean, I just like felt like I wasn't doing a good enough job, but I was like, I don't really think I could be doing anything else because obviously like I show up and I'm always in the mood to do my best. And that's like my expectation is like perform, you know? And since I was the only model, you know, I felt even more pressure. It just like took longer. And then like at the end, it was very, very rushed because since both of them were late, we didn't start on time. I was like, I'm gonna have to leave soon. Like I think I even stayed like an extra like 15 or 20 minutes so we could like try to wrap everything up and like make him happy. Overall, it wasn't a great experience. And then actually a few days later, I got a phone call from my agent. She was like, hey, like, how did the shoot go? And then that's like when I told her. She was like, yeah, he emailed me and he was like, he wasn't very happy. And like, she was like, were you like bloated or something? And I was like, I mean, maybe. I don't really think so. I felt fine about myself, you know? Yeah, and they cut my pay in half. And then
they cut your pay in half. What was the actual rate that you're supposed to get paid for that?
I want to say like 600.
And so you got about 300 and then barely that. That's the 20%.
Yeah, so they cut it down to like 300 and then the agency had to take their cut.
Wow, that's crazy. It's crazy that they didn't advocate for you. But if I was in your shoes, I guess the first thing I would try to do to troubleshoot that situation is number one, actually like self-reflect. Were my measurements different in person than they were from what they saw on the website? Did you know if they were different at all?
Truthfully, they might have been off like 1 or 2, but I mean, I didn't change that much in that time frame. So I mean, and like honestly, maybe like I wasn't very aware of it, but I guess so.
Was that even like a thought that you had to keep in your mind, that anybody even told you like, hey, make sure that your measurements are always the same, because if they're off in between when your agent takes your digitals and uploads the details on their website, it could affect the performance at work? Did anybody even like make you think about that?
They didn't explain it to me in that way, but they were just kind of like, just stay how you are or be better. And I was like, okay. I mean, obviously like from the very beginning, I took that into account of like my measurements and just being very careful, you know? I'm also was 19.
How many months into
I think I was actually 20.
How did it affect your self-image after?
Just like made me feel bad for a few days, but then like I was like, you know what? Like it was 2 grown men judging me, and like I fully understand it's my job. That's part of my responsibility as a model, but I'm like, I can't let it affect me that much. I just need to work on myself.
I guess the assumption is your measurements on the site is going to be what it is when you show up.
Right.
And if it isn't, whose responsibility is that? The agent or the models? I guess it's a learning experience for all the parties, because I'm thinking of like if I was an agent, how I would be on top of all of my models' measurements to make sure that in between the last time I see them, they don't change in their weight. That's a very tough thing to do as well. And I think that models do have to be aware of maintaining their physique and their weight or whatever their measurements in between when they do get measured at their agency, so that they can ensure to show up looking exactly like how they're being marketed.
Right. I completely understand like where they were coming from. Like they were frustrated, they expected me to be a certain way, but then also it's like I didn't have a casting or a fitting with them. It was like kind of just like in like my thing is like if it's gonna be one specific like measurement, like at least like have a fitting or something.
Right, do your due diligence as a designer.
Right.
But clearly this designer didn't have money. Do you like the way that your agency handled it?
I mean, I think it was fair. Like obviously it's like, oh, my pay got cut in half and it was already really low, so I'm like kind of sucks, but like I understand they're just trying to make the designer and me happy.
Right.
And they also like they have to take care of themselves too.
Were there any usable images from that shoot?
I don't think so. I don't think they did.
That's crazy.
Yeah.